Hey, we're back!
Well, hello.
Yeah, don't sound too
Uh,
enthusiastic about this.
Yeah, I have to say the intro thing, James, so you have to be quiet now.
Okay, yeah.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 20. This is episode 20
Is it?
of
Okay,
Blood,
I, I,
Guts,
I stopped keeping track.
of, of Blood, Guts, and Thunder. Um, we've got the Gold Cup to talk about, and we've got Women's World Cup, which is in like an hour. We're playing in an hour, so
We
got to
will
get this
finally
over with.
report on something live today, so when the starting 11 comes in, we can finally speak about something as it's happening and lead into the game starting.
Also, I'd better get to. I actually don't have a TSN package, so I'd better get that
Oh,
for this month.
I definitely will be, somebody might call us out, one of our two listeners might call us out and say we're not spending money to help grow the women's game, but just spending the money right now just is helping Bell right now, and Bell is
Sure.
not the best company at times, so I think I'll be sailing the high seas when it comes to this game today, and I'll be sure to let you know if I find one of those things to watch the game.
I'm actually still waiting for that to happen for one of our two listeners to call us out. If you're one of our two listeners, even if you don't have anything to call us out about, please do call
Yeah,
us out.
it can be completely, yeah, it can be anything. You can be really upset about what's going on, about class warfare, about the housing prices, cost of living, how you feel about legalization of drugs. Yeah, feel free to get mad at us about something.
Or like my microphone technique, the amount that I twitch my nose while I'm not talking, all that. It's all fair game.
Perfect.
Uh, okay, so yeah, we're gonna start off with the Gold Cup because how long ago? I actually don't remember how long ago. It feels everything. My time's all screwed up.
Well, the
10 days ago.
yeah, the World Cup, not World, wow, oof. Okay, now definitely not as important. The Gold
No,
Cup wrapped up not
not
too
quite.
long ago, and Canada's last game was 10 days ago, and our last episode was just leading up to the Gold Cup. So it feels like a lot has happened since we last spoke, and even since Canada last played. But we have a lot to talk about, and that's why I suggested we talk about the Gold Cup first, get the bad and the good out of the way with the Gold Cup, and talk about only the good when it comes to the Women's World Cup. So, I mean, if you have anything to lead us off about the Gold Cup, feel free to lead, and I'll jump in sporadically.
Yeah, I guess like the theme for this week is it's funny how fast like the discourse can change from like the sky is falling to well I guess that was okay. Um, I I was not that low after the Guadeloupe and Guatemala games. Like I was pretty pissed off that I had to watch them and sit through them, but like I understood what kind of team we were going to have going into this tournament, especially with Eustachio and
Oh,
Atakubi dropping out the last
and
minute
I
there.
think we did. I think we did the show like maybe the day before they dropped Estacio and
Yeah,
Atakubi and Buchanan. Maybe was he considered at one point? Was he actually in the lineup at one point?
I don't believe
But
so.
regardless, Estacio and Atakubi were supposed to be there, and the day after we did our show, they dropped out due to injury, which is I got in this debate quite a bit with people. We went from a B team. You could legitimately call that team a B team, but as soon as we lost Estacio and Atakubi, we were a C team, and I won't hear any different comment about it. That was a C. Yes, we had Osorio. Yes, we had Hoylett, but the they're not our top B guys, right? Like it's hard to like their quality is not good enough to counteract the disparity between the top quality. And you and I can maybe disagree about that, but I would say on a whole C plus maybe. But our B team really could go to a C team. So yeah, like you said, Guatemala definitely should have won against Guadeloupe. I mean, it's tough. The draw still wasn't bad, but we should have seen out that win in the final minutes. It's tough way to go, but it is what it is. And the Guatemala game may as well have been in a way CONCACAF game. Like hostile territory, 15,000 Guatemalan fans and like 20 Canadian fans. Like even if that was our best team and we came in with a draw, it would still have been frustrating. But it's like, you know what? Like Canada doesn't often get away points essentially. And so, as frustrating as that game was, we probably should have won. Maybe Guatemala should have won. I don't know. Yeah, like you, I wasn't super frustrated by those two. I was probably more frustrated by the Cuba game, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah, no, that did suck. And it should be noted, like the thing we predicted with Eustachio and Atakubi that we were gonna lose in the quarterfinals. That ended up being what happened. Um, so like I'm not seething about this, but also I don't think I'm making excuses either.
No,
Um,
I think as a whole, like if we were to summarize the whole Gold Cup experience, it would be like, that's too bad. I think that's just the way. Like there was definitely moments like players definitely proved themselves. Like, you know, it was great. Like, and like to really go from the Cuba game to the quarterfinal game into the last quarterfinal game. But Beto being taken out 30 minutes into the Cuba game because he was atrocious, and that sucks for him, but is a huge learning curve for Herdman, because what we were griping about in the World Cup when Atiba Hutchinson was to blame for at least 3 goals against Croatia, like, get him off the field, get him, like, this is not time to play favorites to let people grow, learn from mistakes, get him off, like, at least at half. And I think Herdman learned a different story, but you know, Herdman saw a player struggling, and he was like, okay, we got to get that guy off, like, we got to get him off immediately. And then he went back to him the next game and played him a full 60 minutes in a quarterfinal game against the USA. That's huge learning steps for not only the player and Bobbito, but also Herdman as a coach to be like, I'm going to put that kid back in because I can trust him.
I sense we both have Bombito takes. I'm not sure we're going to agree. So we'll definitely get to that in a few minutes. All right. I think, I don't know if I'm like quite as passive. Like, as much as I'm not angry per se about the results. I feel like there's still things that are like moderately worrying. I think there's one fact that sort of made me uncomfortable. And that's that, like, a lot of our lineup hasn't really changed over the last 2 years when you get down a peg or two, when you get down to our B players. And once you accept that, you also kind of see that, like, a lot of our role players, a lot of our depth at that tier is probably not as good as it was 2 years ago, and it's still kind of exactly most of the same. I think there's kind of an alarming trend where a lot of our guys, like in our late 20s, early 30s, have fallen off a little faster than you would have liked.
Yeah, and that speaks to Freudian slip. That speaks to our depth as a whole, and, you know, again, getting into debates with fans, and they're like, you know, yeah, you know, our depth just isn't as good as USA's. It's like, yes, it's not.
Yeah, like,
yes, correct.
I wasn't surprised. No.
And it's frustrating, but this is what this tournament has. They've decided this tournament is going to be, is that even though I think those 2 results spoke about earlier against Guadeloupe and Guatemala, and I think they even said so as much on some of the broadcasts. It's like, if they had beaten Guadeloupe, Herdman probably would have been more experimental in the Guatemala game, and same for the Cuba game. But because they just didn't perform the first game and then the second game, it's like, well, you got to rely on the guys who have been there, and so you can't really tinker with it too much. You hinder yourself by not that. It's like any tournament, no matter what level of sport you play. If you go into a 3-game group stage for a tournament, you have to win that first game to set you up for like immediate success. And they didn't get that, so yeah, our depth isn't as good, but we also didn't get a chance to really test it. And then, you know what though, we saw a few players that Ahmed especially showed he can play. If he gets called up, he can play, and that's what these tournaments are about. Then success.
Yeah, if we want to get into Ali Ahmed, I was saving for a little later, but I tried to talk about it in the last episode, but you wanted to talk about Zach McGraw. But I really liked Ali Ahmed before this tournament, and like I think he's won a lot of new suitors, and that's really cool. There was something so comforting about like watching Ali Ahmed be like a really competent dribbler, being like a really smart technical player. After watching like 10 minutes of Liam Miller kind of fall over himself.
Yeah, it's weird how like I mean, we're gonna be bouncing around a bit for the Gold Cup for the first little bit of the show, but it's weird how Liam Miller really showed flashes of not much and then a lot, and it was pretty interesting. You got a ghost in your room?
My cat is trying to get out, and she managed to open the door.
Okay, well, she's very smart. Liam Miller, he had a really interesting tournament.
Yeah, this is definitely weird for it. People are like really scared to criticize him on the forum because his dad will come after you. His dad is. We have a lot of dads.
It can't be any worse than Alex Galchenyuk's dad, that's for sure. You know what though? It was Liam Miller was it was against Cuba, but getting the goal against Cuba, he finally got like something, and you saw he went straight to the bench and like he was. And we want guys to want to do that. I don't know how I became the always half glass full guy now, but we want that for our players to want to be and be excited to like score goals. And then he showed in the game against USA. It's really honestly it adds to us losing that game. Like we had so many great flashes from players in that game all the way through extra time. Even the own goal. I've yet to watch the own goal. I won't watch it again. But we just showed such great like Schaffelberg. We showed such great moments in those two games that it was like, okay, this is what this tournament is about. Now, if only we could have gotten just one more step forward and played one more game against Panama, that would have been worth it. But it's our depth isn't there. Depth is not there, and it's not going to be there yet. But this is what this tournament's for. So maybe before we go to the Copa next year or Nations League games, we can find one more player who everyone loves Jebison. I don't know what the fascination is with him. He's just because he plays in England.
That's basically it.
Yeah,
he did have interest. He had interest, or at least rumored interest, from some bigger clubs, and there's the whole dual mania of feeling scarred when you see a guy in someone else's youth national teams. But I he really he didn't tear up League One. He didn't really play much in the championship. I am worried about losing him, but I think people's fixation on him is a little silly. I agree.
Well, and to go back to my McGraw fan club, he did for once. I know he didn't do great. He did for once prove that we can have an aerial threat in the box besides Vittoria. A few times he got his head on some balls that were like, oh, we actually can do something in a set piece for once. Finally, Canada might score a goal off a corner.
Ashas, did you like McGraw overall? I didn't personally, but
first two games were rough, man. And even in moments in that Cuba game, he looked like a little rough. He only came on as a sub that game, from what I recall. But I think in the moments he showed that he could play, I was it's like, okay, this is what he can be, and if we can just do that a few more times. Everyone's complaining about our center backs, everyone's complaining about our defense. Well, he's what we got. He's a guy coming out the pipeline right now, and he showed in flashes, not just in the offensive zone, but he showed that he could, he could be useful, and that's, we need that. Manikar James isn't coming back. Honestly, I'm gutted that more so when I think about it as sort of the forgotten man of this when it comes to injuries is Derek Cornelius.
Yeah, although he'll definitely be getting reps.
Oh no, 100%. But for this tournament, if he was there, that may not have won us the game against the USA, but maybe it would have won the game against Guadeloupe. I don't know, him being there would have made a difference somewhere, and he scores goals off set pieces too. We've seen him do it for Canada at the U23 level back when the CONCACAF qualifying for the Olympics.
Yeah.
He's a threat at both ends. So yeah, I actually feel bad because
he's been really good with Malmo too.
Yeah, not a lot of people talk about him in the sense of him not being there, and I think it needs to be known that it's especially hard that he wasn't there.
I think that was one of Vancouver's biggest bungles. Derek Cornelius is just pretty good at what he does. He's just very steady. Basically everywhere but Vancouver. I don't think he's really disappointed in a national team shirt once. He did really well on a small team in Greece, to the extent that he got found by the biggest team in Sweden. That's pretty impressive. I don't think there's much scouting there. I think that's pretty cool. I want to talk a bit. Yeah, I want to just hammer home a bit the point I was making about some of our players who have fallen off a bit. Mm-hmm. So we've got Mark Anthony Kaye, who wasn't on this squad at all, and who was rapidly gone from an MLS All-Star to the fan base's punching bag. We've got Steven Vittoria, who, as underrated as he was during World Cup qualification, and as good a season as he did have in Portugal, and he had a career season. I think his decline is kind of starting. His legs are just at such a point where he can't really make up for it anymore. And
he hopefully he finds himself in the role of not necessarily super sub, but the guy you can rely on for the final 30 minutes of a game when you're going to a back four or a back five. And once again, the debate will never end. Steven Vittoria proves that he should have taken the penalty over Alphonso Davies against Belgium. Once again.
He then proceeded to miss his second.
Yeah, but you know what? It's getting us there was still worth it. Getting us to that point. He stepped up in that moment in an extra time penalty kick. He was the one who took it and he scored, regardless of how he did in the penalty shot. He put it away. So he's
No, you're right.
he's proven that he's got more than just defense in his back pocket. I don't know why they don't go to him more on free kicks. He scores free kick goals in Portugal.
Yeah, that kind of just seems like something the national team hasn't really scouted, and maybe that's presumptuous of me to say, but it just seems weird that he hasn't taken anything until now. I think it's
yeah, but you are right. He did show in that Guadalupe game, and more so in Guadalupe.
yeah.
The conditions were tough. They were really tough. Let's not forget how shitty the weather was in Houston for those 2 games. But yeah, I mean, but also it's like, yeah, we've been saying this since qualification. Like he's the oldest one, and he's really powering through. Why is everybody surprised their defense isn't strong? And why is everyone surprised that the guys we have in the pipeline aren't as good as he is? Like it's strange. And those 4 games in the Gold Cup, we gave guys new opportunity. We gave Kennedy, who did not have a great tournament, but is still someone who's proven in qualification for World Cup he is a very usable player and can be really good. We gave them 4 games to play. Like I just don't. It sucks. Yeah, I keep saying it's summed up as it's too bad. But what was everyone's expecting? What was the fan base to expect in this tournament? I feel like some people didn't even know that this wasn't a part of like World Cup qualification. I would see comments online like, "Oh, why isn't Davies and David there?" It's just like, well, you don't even know what tournament this is, guy. Get out of here.
Or in Toronto, there were like fans who thought Ali Ahmed was Jonathan David and such.
Yeah.
Yeah. That is kind of inevitably what happens. You know, the bigger your pet sport gets, but like it is a kind of fan we're going to have to be dealing with in the future. So we probably ought to get used to it.
Yeah.
We've got. I don't imagine we're going to be seeing David Wotherspoon again. He shouldn't have been at this tournament, and I don't know where he's going next. Like he probably isn't even going to be in the Scottish top division.
No, I the guy was very serviceable when we had him. He did great when he had to in World Cup qualification, playing some of those games. He got goals, stranded there against Aruba, or was it Cayman Islands?
It's Cayman Islands.
Cayman Islands. But you know what? He did his job, and nothing against him. But yeah, I just couldn't find. He was unattached to FC for a while. You know, came in as a helpful sub in this Gold Cup, but I don't think he's got a place in this team anymore unless he really. I hope he does. I hope he can be a good player and help us out. Maybe he can be the guy we always count on to be there for every Gold Cup going forward. Like he may not make the World Cup or Copa, but yeah, he's guaranteed to be there. You know, every Gold Cup. I don't know.
No, I mean all the respect in the world to him for like flying out from Perth to a country doesn't have a huge connection to.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think his time should probably be over. Even options not being great, but I think there are better ones at this point in time.
Yeah. Yeah.
I guess Lucas Cavallini did get his goal against Guadeloupe, but I don't know. Were you right about him? I don't know.
You know what? I was right about Cavallini in the sense that he is still valuable in his mindset of attack. Like I like that he just sort of like head down he's a bit of like the Samuel Piette of strikers, where he just sort of like works hard, goes after guys, you know, takes a questionable foul every now and then, if not more every now and then. But it's just like, but he again he shouldn't be a starter. Even when we have Schaffelberg and Brim there, like guys with legs at least, like Cavallini should be the kind of guy we were looking for, go ahead goal or a tying goal. Like don't start him a game. Again, we don't make those calls, so we can complain all we want. But yeah, Cavallini his days of being a starter is over. I'm happy to have him on the team every time because again we're really thin up top. Ugbo, didn't deserve to be at this tournament. I'd love to have seen him there, but had no reason to be there. Cavallini still has a spot in this team because we're so thin and we need more guys with tenacity. But if he's not scoring, what good is his tenacity? He's just getting yellows.
Yeah, he's at a point where I sort of question what he's done with his fitness levels in this stage, in like the later stage of his career.
Yeah.
I hesitate to call him like the Samuel Piette of strikers because he has a scoring record in Uruguay. He was really good for about 1.5 seasons in Liga MX, and then Vancouver spent half the Davies money on him.
Yeah, and you know what? And he wasn't even that bad for Vancouver. He just didn't keep up the work effort. He just didn't. Maybe that
It just
ties.
seems like he should have spent. I mean, maybe it's more of a natural decline than I realized, but I feel like maybe he should be spending more time, doing cardio stuff rather than strength stuff. And maybe once again, that's presumptuous of me to say,
Go for
but
a run, Lucas.
I feel like that. I feel like his entire philosophy as a player is this ability to run to the far post and basically say like, "Hey, I'm as strong as a center back. You're not going to knock me off. I'm just going to knock it in, and there's nothing you can do about it." I remember the Aruba game where, I mean, obviously it's not top tier competition, but we kind of saw like what he was as a player, like what makes him Lucas Cavallini, and that's that. He's getting to that back post. No one's
Yes.
going to push him away, and he's going to score a bunch of goals. He just doesn't have the legs to make those kinds of runs anymore. And like I don't know if he's a Liga MX player, if he's an MLS player at this point. It's been a very sharp decline, and like it's possible this was what's always going to happen. Um, but like it leaves me wondering is all.
Yeah, he's a frustrating player, and it's cool. Like people were like, "This, oh, like Cavalier scored goals for Canada. He should be doing like we should be winning these games." Like, yeah, he was scoring still like in 2017, 2019, he was scoring goals against like Martinique and like yeah, you're right. Like he should be scoring more goals against in the Gold Cup, but he was not scoring against the best teams. As you mentioned, he was not scoring against the best teams in the first place anyway. So yeah, you can have 20 goals against the worst teams all you want. You're still not a guaranteed striker. Um, yeah, his time's up, but we don't really have anybody. Like that's the thing, and everyone's
Yeah.
like, "Well, we got to." I'm like, "This is what this tournament is for." Schaffelberg, not necessarily like, a striker all the time, but that he even and his goal, Gareth Wheeler celebrated that goal like it was a great strike. It was a great strike, lots of power. It hit the defender and went in on its way in past Matt Turner. I know Gareth Wheeler very conveniently didn't say that, but that's not an own goal because it was a shot on target, so it still counts. But yeah, we had Schaffelberg proved okay. He had a moment like great. Maybe we can rely on him in the future. Our older guys are up. It's tough. It sucks, but that's what that tournament was for. And hopefully, come nations because we're right back. It's crazy how I was online last night and it makes sense, but I didn't really think of it. Oh, like they already have World Cup qualification like seeding going on, right? Like we're
Right.
already in that stage of other nations and confederations getting ready for World Cup qualification. Oh, and we have Nations League in September or it was in November. Either way, in fall or winter we're not that far away from more competition. So if we can afford to do some friendlies, we can test some more depth again.
We'll see. They're probably going to be kind of underwhelming with the nations that are left, but we'll see.
Well, then, and if
Um,
that's the case, then we play a team similar to the one we had at the Gold Cup. We can only
yeah.
play Caribbean teams or a Bolivia, like not to shit on Bolivia, but you know what I'm saying, like lesser known South American Concacaf teams. Then you dress a BC team and your fringe guys, get them capped, like just like we did in the Gold Cup, and then that's what we do. Let the A guys rest on their international windows.
I could go. I'll just leave off there by saying like I also thought it was a pretty concerning tournament from Kamal Miller and Jonathan Osorio, but I don't want to. We don't have too much time for the Gold Cup left, so I want to get into. I think we have disagreements about the midfield, so I want to get into that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, I thought I thought like no Schwanier was really dumb from the beginning, and I made that clear. And after that didn't happen, I'm not totally sure what Herdman's plan was for this tournament. He didn't include Liam Fraser, and then he did as an injury replacement, and then started him over Victor Laturi, who he did include. So I'm not entirely sure what the thought process was there. And like as much as the weird like God Emperor Laturi stuff was on Twitter for like a guy who's would probably be playing in the Scottish Championship next year if they got relegated.
Yeah.
Um, like I like he's a six and Fraser is a six. I don't really understand the thought process there for not including a guy and then bringing him hit and playing him basically every minute.
Yeah, we're always going to agree that Turbin makes decisions where that leaves people, even the not the most, you don't have to be the most intense fan to stake your head at some decisions he makes of just like, well, yeah, why did you bring him and you're not even starting him? Why didn't you bring this guy? And he's And I think did he say at some point when it came to CF Montreal, he was just like, oh, I want to let them stay in form and play their club team, which, is a boring answer, but it could be true if that's the case what he said. Like, but yeah, I don't know. I wish I could get more insight, but at the end of the day, we're always going to be left guessing like what exactly is Herdman doing, and sometimes it works in our favor. Remember when we were questioning going with a back three, like, oh, there's no way Canada can play with a back three, and it worked for a better part than it didn't. So until we played Croatia.
That's true. I thought the Ismail Kone call was dumb the first time it happened, but it turns out Herdman was right, and I was absolutely wrong about that one.
Yeah, I mean, I think people also didn't realize how many people were missing from this roster at the Gold Cup. Yeah, definitely exposed holes, no doubt about that, in this men's side for the couple years to come, where we need to fix it soon before the World Cup. But how many guys? Eustáquio, Kone, Buchanan, Davies, David. Who else? I feel like I'm missing. Like, who else? 6 or 7 guys who would easily start. And it's just people like, oh, this fire Herdman out. Like, all these people. It's like, what are you talking about? My God.
And the thing is, like, that, I feel like if you were that angry, I get like the U.S. thing. But the U.S. game was legitimately really fun. I think it topped the Mexico semifinal game, and I didn't expect that.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't see how that calms you down so much. That was still a game where, like, I think we were largely outpossessed. We were outshot. But because we went to penalties, everyone immediately calms down. I'm not saying we should all be Herdman out. I'm very not Herdman out.
Yeah.
But there's this very annoying fixation on single games where we're at half strength, where this is something I've heard on the Scuff Soccer podcast as pertaining to the American team, where like every single thing that happens fits your agenda, no matter what. And it's just really annoying. It's the most annoying thing about our fan base.
Oh, it's so strange. I wish I could have a better insight to these people, but it's the tournament, yeah, it wasn't great, but it wasn't like doom and gloom like these people were thinking. It's so crazy.
We got Bombito. Okay, I've got.
Yeah, give me your thoughts.
I don't get it. I don't think he's a midfielder. I don't see what Herdman sees to make him think he's a midfielder. Like there's just so many times like where it's so clear I'm not even sure he has a technique to be like a center back in a back three, and he's spraying these long passes he really can't make. Like, and I could kind of see in theory what he has as a center back. Mm-hmm. He's like maybe ideally he's what O'Kello would have been if we ever put him at the back. But I did not get this fixation with sticking him in the middle, and I think we got quite lucky against the U.S. putting him there again.
Nothing you're saying I'm disagreeing with. I think in terms of a player's development and a coach's development, I thought it was great that Herdman, did those. He had those 2 moments of, again, he learned to take a player out who was struggling, and then he did that player who needed, who had a hard lesson to learn. He brought him back into the game, and it was great. I was happy to see him sort of learn from the lesson, like learn from an issue because that was a huge glaring mistake against Croatia, was not getting Atiba Hutchinson off. And again, yeah, we'll debate.
Like, did you see something in him that I didn't?
No, I didn't see anything. I'm gonna be honest, I didn't see anything special in him, but I don't run the team, so it's tough.
Yeah.
It's like he sees something that we don't see. I don't know what it is. He's not a midfielder. He's definitely more of a defender. He's a shaky defender at that, but I'm glad we capped him, and hopefully he gets brought up again to a different tournament and he can show, or he can progress. I don't know, like, there's so many what ifs of the players that they brought where they showed like moments of like, okay, maybe he could play for the A team, not anytime soon, but leading up to the World Cup, maybe.
Yeah, and his name is really fun to say, so I mean, that's all that matters. I think basically it's hard to know exactly what to take this tournament. You can make like a comforting argument that our depth was about as good as maybe our better team was at the Gold Cup 2 years ago. I think you could also make the argument that like our uppercomers are maybe less exciting than they were a few years ago.
Oh,
I
I
think we
agree.
sort
I
of
agree 100% on that one.
yeah, like I think we've lent some credence to like the American idea that we're maybe not two players and a bunch of role players, but maybe five or six players and a bunch of. Um, I'm simultaneously not that surprised by this tournament, and a little concerned about like our youth production.
Well,
Oh, that's my dog. I'm
there
sorry.
you go. No, it's all good. The CPL is what we can look to for development, and from all accounts, the CPL is doing its job, but it has not yielded results to the national team. So, should we be worried that the CPL?
I wouldn't even say that.
Well, exactly. So we worried about like year 5 in the CPL has not brought us a sexy prospect, or if anything, we're kind of like maybe losing prospects to other countries, even though they're not playing super well. Yeah, I'm not concerned yet, but I 100% agree that we did not get any. We didn't get anything. Ahmed is exciting, but not.
No, I love Ahmed.
Yeah, Ahmed is exciting, but not in the sense of like, oh wow, I can't wait to see him play again. It's like, oh yeah, he proved he can play. Great. Because even Kone, I say even, but Kone had like his first game. He was like, oh wow, like, I definitely see him there. Ahmed was like, okay, thanks, thanks for coming.
But I like Ahmed. I think Ahmed belongs in our A squads from now on. But
Okay,
maybe there's some
yeah.
disagreement there, and it's not necessarily. You don't have a lot of time talking about it. So I see you've got a graphic up on.
Yeah,
the
I'll get up there in just 1 second because the starting lineup was announced not too long ago for the women's game against Nigeria. So I'm just going to bring it up. We can still talk over it. So here it is. Here's the starting 11 for the women tonight.
Do you want to announce it because it's a little zoomed out?
Yeah. I'll announce it. So here, I hate how Canada Soccer does these. They don't do it by name, numerical, or by position. Drives me insane. So we got Sinclair, Sheridan, Buchanan, Quinn, Rose, Grosso, Riviere, Heidema, Lawrence, Giles, and Leon. And our substitutes, they're all down there as well. But that starting 11, I don't know what you think of that. I think it's a pretty solid starting 11. I know you, off air, you questioned maybe Heidema getting some starting time. Probably because she broke Alfonso Davies' heart, so we're all very upset about that.
Cause like a way bigger scandal than it actually did.
Surprisingly, adults can break up and it be fine. Crazy.
Yeah. That is definitely a lineup.
Yes, that is a starting 11. I'm gonna search and see if there's a better because that's the one Canada Soccer puts out. So no.
I found it.
There you go. Yeah, find it. Yeah, find a better. Maybe I'll find a better graphic too because I hate how they do this one. Just like, it's not in any real sensible order. It's just in an order.
Yeah. So I think I definitely have a few qualms with this lineup already. As you said, now that I've done research, I've done the research. I'm not entirely sure what Priestman's fixation with Heidema is. She's not really scoring consistently, and yet she seems to center our attack so often. I would have liked to see Evelyn Viens, who's been scoring in Sweden pretty consistently for a few years now, or even like Chloe Lacasse starting. That's probably the first thing. I guess the second thing, Lyon has not been good this season as far as I can tell, and like every time I've watched her with the national team, she's been like pretty frustrating. So I'm not entirely sure.
Yeah, it's a lineup. It's a solid lineup for the first game. I don't think this is the toughest opposition of the group, even though we discussed Nigeria does have a strong goalkeeper. But I think Canada gets away with a 2-1 win. I think this is you put in a solid lineup, a reliable lineup, and then you learn from it there. Again, that's just our second guessing, but I think that's the way to start a tournament. Start with a solid lineup and make adjustments as you go along. They know that they're favorites to go to this group, and they should go to this group. So, yeah, I can't say I don't see anything too wrong with it, but I understand your concerns. I understand maybe even some changes you would make, but something Herdman knows more than we do, and something Bev Priestman knows more than we do, and this is who she wants to start against this particular lineup. So this game is the only one that's suitable in my time zone to watch. The other ones I could definitely attempt to watch, but it'll be tough. And it's great timing to call out Bell and TSN for not having their games. You can't rewatch. They're not on demand later on if you subscribe to TSN Plus. So it's not like I could.
Wait, there's no replays?
I don't think so. You'd have to look it up on Twitter. I saw some comments.
Screwed.
I saw some comments that they would not be playing them on demand. Let's see, women's World Cup, TSN on
That's
demand.
so dumb.
Yes. I don't
Wait,
think
you're in the industry. Why would you not have it on demand?
Mostly money, and mostly they probably don't think it's worth it. I don't know. I'm sure whatever reason's going to be stupid, and they're going to say it's legitimate. But I just saw a couple posts about that. We'll have to do some more digging on that one before I speak too much out of turn on that one. But yeah.
So it's good to know. Like, a lot of my knowledge about this tournament is just going to be secondhand. That's good to know in advance.
Yeah.
So basically, I think this group is not as weak as I thought the last time we did the show. I just from talking to people today, I think Australia probably have a stronger midfield than us. Attack and defense is more debatable. Ireland, like I said before the show, are sort of like Ireland on the men's side in that they have some fringe players in the top division.
Yeah.
They do have two standout players with Denise O'Sullivan and Katie McCabe. But they have some mostly fringe players in the top division and a bunch of other people kind of littered in the second tier. And then we've got Nigeria, who are stronger than I realized. They're really good for a top 4 team. Professional players in the top tier of Spain and France. They're not going to be pushovers. Very good goalie with Nadozi, and maybe Group of Death. Group of Death. I think you kind of need like at least one top. I feel like you need like a top 5.
It's Group of Death is exaggerated for this group. This is a very tough group, for sure. Especially if Canada does not get the result it needs tonight, then yes, they have two very tough opponents that they can beat, definitely can and maybe should to a certain degree beat. But yeah, tonight's going to get done, and if they don't, they're in trouble because I think that Australian crowd is going to be. I really wanted to watch that game. It's 3:00 Western time against Canada, so it'll be a little tough. But I think that crowd's going to be huge. It's going to be a massive boost for them, and it showed it was tonight for both Australia and New Zealand. Having that home crowd for these events, especially, people will show up for these games, and it's effective. And that's the only game I'm really worried about is against Australia. If Canada happens to get down by a goal, and not necessarily early, but down a goal, I don't know if they can come back against Australia. So tonight's night to get down against Nigeria, who aren't pushovers, but we need to get a win.
Yeah, we did. Like I said, we did beat them in 2 friendlies in Australia, which is pretty hard to do. So maybe we have a better chance than we realize. But yeah, I agree. That's easily the toughest game in the group. I think I won't even get into whether we can win. There's more to talk about. I feel like a lot of the talk is around Janine Becky, who hasn't even really had all that good a season of her not being in this tournament. I think the more worrying thing sort of is how many of our players are either not playing or out of form. As much as people have kind of shit on our literally gold medal winning team in hindsight for winning a bunch of coin flips, there was something to that team. Like, there was a defense that stuck together that like glue that made it very hard for other teams to break down.
And a goalkeeper who stood on their head consistently and made several saves in the penalty kicks. Like, not only did we have a solid defense and an identity, but we also had a world-class goalkeeper. And I don't know if both those things exist right now on this team. They've struggled as of late, but they're still I was watching the broadcast, the first bit of the broadcast for the Gold Cup, and they did on Fox. They did it from Australia, and they made sure to cover a lot of the Women's World Cup as well as the Gold Cup. And they were talking about who are the teams out to watch out for, and not one mention of Canada. They were mentioning other teams. They mentioned Brazil because of that one player. Was it Marta? I think her name is. They mentioned Brazil. They mentioned England. They mentioned Australia, and they mentioned Denmark. I could be completely wrong. They didn't even mention Canada once. And as you said, like, yeah, we're not the exact same team we were, but we are the Olympic gold medalists. We beat you, USA, and we
Yeah.
beat Sweden. And you're not you just because we're the reigning champions of like the most recent. You won't even throw us in there. This is why I hate the U.S. women's soccer team. They are one of the most disgraceful teams to ever play the sport. And I cannot wait for an opportunity to play them again. It may not be this tournament, unfortunately, because yes, I will not. I will always admit the USA women's soccer team, as much as I dislike them, they're a great team, and they will go far, if not to the finals, like almost a guarantee for each tournament. But to not even mention Canada, and as so many people are worried about Canada in this tournament, we just won the Olympic gold medal. Like we have some experience from that. We've been there, and let's see what we can do with it.
That moment when you realize Fox Australia is the worst Fox.
No, it was the Fox American broadcast. They're doing the Gold Cup pregame show from Australia, and then while they're doing that, they were also touching on the world. But you know what? Anyone associated with any sort of Fox broadcasting is awful. But it's a different conversation.
I feel like there's so many commentators who will just fall in love with us for like a week, and then the second we're not performing, they just throw us right under the bus.
Honestly, if we gave that broadcast team a map, they probably can't even point to us on it. So I'm not too concerned anymore.
So among people not playing terribly well right now are Zadorsky with Tottenham, who was a big part of our Olympic run. Jay Riviere with Man U, Rose with Reading, and Leon with Portland, who is not playing very much and is not playing very well.
No.
Quinn, who is probably just my favorite player in this team, has been playing but has not been very consistent. And then Nichelle Prince also with Houston. I think we're kind of in a strange position to be ranked top 10 in the world and to have like so many players and players who have been core to our success not to be playing or not to be succeeding going into this tournament. And like I'm personally more concerned about that than like the next Christine Sinclair, Janine Petty.
Well, it would have been nice if I know they had a closed door friendly tie against England just before, was it earlier last week? Sorry, earlier this week.
Was the score reported?
I think it was recorded 0-0, but
okay.
They have been playing some lead up games. I know. I think just like with
it's
the
been
men's,
inconsistent.
with the men's team and the women's team, the games they get together for big tournaments is pretty non-existent, and so it is a concern for players who aren't getting time with their club teams, and so practice and a few closed door games, will that help shake off the rust, or are we going to see that imminently tonight? And is that why you go to more of a old reliable starting 11 for the first game and then work in players who aren't getting a lot of field time back with the clubs? Is there a method to that sort of thinking? Maybe that's it. Maybe that's why they already are well aware of those concerns that some of those players aren't getting much time. Yeah, I think we're going to learn a lot. It's so easy to say. I think we're going to learn a lot from the first half of this game tonight.
Is there anyone in particular looking forward to seeing this tournament, or should I?
It's always Sinclair for me.
Yeah.
And honestly, I just want to see how the keepers perform as well. Like I don't know how much they're going to rotate. Probably not at all, I guess, to be honest. They won't rotate any goalkeepers. But
yeah, there was some weird, there was some weird D'Angelo stands, but I think Sheridan should probably be starting every game. Yeah, I think a lot of people are just under the impression that Sinclair isn't that good anymore, and
she's still the best.
Maybe she might still be the best player on this team. Her goal scoring has definitely declined, though it's never been phenomenal at club level. But like playing as a midfielder, like her metrics are still elite. Her ball progression is still OP.
Mm-hmm. No, she's definitely slowed down. Like you look back at the World Cup that was here in Canada, she was like all over the place and just dominating. But she's still a high world class player. Like she's gonna deliver somewhere. It just won't be as fast as we're used to. Like that's just reality.
I don't know if you can. I have like a little graphic of her FB ref numbers as a central midfielder, usually in like a 3-woman midfield. Fortunately, having little trouble getting it right now.
Yeah, you do what you gotta do.
Say we'll do it later. But yeah, like I'd rather not see her at the front line or as a 10. I'm not sure she still has legs for that. But like as a ball progressor in the central, her mind is still phenomenal.
Yeah.
And yeah, like I think she should. I'm happy to see her start every game if that's what the plan is.
Yeah, everyone on the opposition should be worried when Sinclair is on the field, and it's great because she can still deliver. So, they're gonna mark her the most, and someone else may show that maybe your favorite player, Jordan Heidema, will step up and score a goal somewhere. And
I swear, I don't have a grudge against her or anything. It's just, like it's just when I saw her playing, I just always got the impression we didn't have anyone scoring consistently at club level, and that's just not true. So yeah, that's going to interrupt me taking a screenshot of aforementioned graphics.
Although I will say, looking through all the tweets, I do like this look of the Canadian jersey. I do like their kits for this tournament. The Reds, obviously.
Yeah, no, the women's kits are just objectively better.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I feel like the men should just just steal them. We just steal them.
Well, this should just be universal. Where those kits
better.
have like some, not just like a boring pajama T-shirt. I like the Canadian men's. It's simple. It's just got the colors, but they wear the black too much. Yeah, just make the ones the women are wearing uniform. I don't understand.
I.e. the thing I'm wearing right now. So yeah, I think we can win this group, and I think like we have a pretty big incentive to win this group, given that it's going to be the difference between playing England or playing Denmark or China, which you'd obviously take 1,000 times before England.
Yeah.
Do you have us as favorites to win this group, James?
I think we're favorites to win this group for sure. I think we should always be considered favorites to win this group. That's kind of up to us though at this point. Like it's if we don't, that's not because the competition is so much better than us. It's because we failed somewhere. And I think that's a fair assessment. I just want to know. I think we talked a little bit before. Like, what is the expectation for this tournament? Like, obviously, would love to get to the semis and like some dream run. But is that realistic? Are we bound for the semis? Or are we quarterfinal bounce? Are we round of 16 kind of bounce?
Yeah, for me, I think quarterfinals would be like a good tournament. It feels on one hand like kind of sad to see this team win a gold medal and then kind of have middling expectations going to this tournament. And as much as I feel like the women's team can kind of get a weird amount of hate. I think it's hard to say we're at the point where we have like 11 top quality players that we can be expecting to make runs to the finals. I'm not sure we're still in that place, and that's why my prediction is a quarterfinal exit.
Quarterfinal. I wish I haven't looked. I wish we did before looked at the path that they would go on to go to the quarterfinal. I guess we could probably just figure that out right now. Just give me a second.
It would be very likely England, Denmark, or China, unless Haiti goes on it. Or maybe Haiti has a bunch of dual nationals that I don't know about.
Haiti, I'm just happy he's there and they're qualified. I don't know how good of a tournament they're going to have, but I'm happy that everything, even with the history of the men's teams of Haiti of breaking my heart in 2019 and us beating them, I would love to have seen Haiti somehow, get their way also into CONCACAF qualifying back to the World Cup. That country's just gone through so much. And to see the women's team there, actually, it was brought up on the Fox broadcast. It actually genuinely makes me happy seeing some of these countries in the Women's World Cup there, and Haiti being one of them for sure. But I don't think they're going to have a great tournament.
Yeah. No, it's cool that we're at the place we're at now where, like, blowouts are kind of relatively uncommon. Do you agree with me? Do you think like a quarterfinal sort of is sort of what we expect out of this tournament?
I don't know if I would expect that. I think I would be. I'm trying to think of a way to put this. I think I would be somewhat satisfied that we had won some games and, okay, we won some games and we got to the quarters. We got, depending how we went out too. Like if we went out like in horrible fashion, maybe not so much. But okay, we're out in the quarters. That sucks, but the expectation of this team, I don't know, was to win. So that's respectable. I think to try and assert back in the picture of dominance, I'm hoping they get to a semifinal. I'm trying to dance between reality and expectations. Yeah, quarterfinal, I guess. I'm going to say that only just because of I want to try and undersell them to be pleasantly surprised when they go over that.
Yeah, I think we're definitely like I have more confidence than like when like Heiner Muller was at the helm from what I remember. Even if the football is like um very gritty, occasionally leading into terrorism tactics. Um, I think like Priestman has a better hold of this team than we give her credit for, and I'm I feel like I have a reasonable confidence in this team to be what it has been, to be sturdy, if
Yeah,
nothing else.
yeah, yeah. No, and again, we go back to the lineup.
I,
Like we're talking about like sturdiness and just reliability. Like this could be exactly what they're going for game one. Despite I know we've made comments on the performance or like lack thereof playing time for some players. That's well we can maybe that's why they're putting in a bit of a I wouldn't say boring, but a pretty straightforward lineup. Nothing sexy.
uh, yeah, I think that's most of what I have to say for this episode. Is that?
I think that's a good place to leave it. I think because we want to get ready for the game. Um, there's a lot of unknowns because the expectation for whatever reason for Olympic gold medal championship has gone down, probably because performances that she believes, some friendlies, lack thereof, players not playing. I understand people's hesitation with this team, but I, we gotta just believe in this team and hope for the best. And I think they're gonna deliver tonight. And I'm gonna say, I'm gonna say my prediction tonight is a 2-1 victory.
I'm gonna say 2-0.
2-0.
And like I said, at the end of the last episode, yeah. And like I said at the end of the last episode, there's still a lot to enjoy about having like a top 10 team in the world.
Oh, absolutely. That's why
that's still a really good thing to have.
Yeah, saying going out in the quarters, you want more, but it's okay. We've asserted that we still belong in the conversation of top 10 going out in the quarters. All right, my friend. Well, that's.
Well, maybe I should mention.
Oh, yes. James, go on.
It was a plot twist. Okay, I remember this. I think we had a bit of a discussion, like it was like a year and a half ago, about what effect like whether we should have a domestic league in the first place, whether it would be beneficial or realistic, and what kind of effect it would have on the program. I guess just while we got a little bit of time.
Yeah.
Has your opinion changed on that now that it seems like a women's league is going through?
My opinion, remind me what it was before, because I feel like my opinion has never changed, is that I think it's viable.
We basically came to an agreement.
Yeah.
I think we basically came to an agreement last time around that it wasn't viable, and that the badness of us kind of using the American system was overblown.
It's tough because just like with this tournament, you kind of want to live in reality and what you hope for. I think just the buzz that has been generated the last little while. I think we've seen some news articles about there is genuine interest and investment, which is like the biggest thing that this league needs is investment from owners and I think it is possible. I think we need to start small. There are, there's the women's leagues associated with like League One BC, Ontario and things like that. We do have that. I think the growth of the game is huge. It's amazing to see when you see the women's team come through and play games and how many young girls and women are watching them play and are playing the sport of soccer and inspired by them. It's absolutely possible, and I think as we get closer, it is going to happen. There is genuine and real investment. There's been announcements that we are having a team coming through. People need to show up and support it, and I hope ticket prices are reasonable, and I hope they need to put money into marketing more than anything else, because people will go, but they know it's there, but often people don't know. And it's not they don't care. They're not actively rooting against women's leagues or women's teams, but often people just don't know it exists, and they expect just the same fans to show up. The same fans are always going to show up. You got to get the ones who aren't always going to show up to these games. And I think we're terrible at marketing when it comes to sports in this country. For our own fan bases, you rely on hockey. You rely on legacy fans so much, and as soon as you do something new, people lose their minds over this stuff. It's like, no, that's not the way Don Cherry would like it. Well, that's just too goddamn bad. So, long story short, yeah, I want it, and let's just make it happen finally.
Yeah, support local football, one might say. yeah, as it seems like it's going through in 2025, and I think it's important that we all support it. I think I'm more optimistic about it than I was then.
Oh,
I'm
absolutely.
not sure if I was speaking about it before or after the gold medal, but however we're going to change my opinion, I think it is feasible with what we've seen with the CPL, and I'm looking forward to it. I think, you know what, a domestic league, it provides a safety net sort of, for people who aren't sure whether, like, which direction they're going in life, and yeah, I think that's really cool. I think that's about all I have to say. So
All right, well, enjoy the
time to say
game.
thing, James.
Oh, no, it's your line, isn't it? Oh, no, my line, right. Wow, we gotta do this more often.
Oh yeah. Wait, do I say something? Do I say something to get you to say it? I don't remember anymore.
No, I think you've just been saying to the line, so I'll say thank you for having me a guest on my own show, and I hope you enjoy watching the game.
Welcome to James.